All right, y'all, welcome back to News and Talk, 1380 WLK. I think it's been about 2 years. Dr. Lisa Herring has been at the helm of the Atlanta Public School System. Dr. Herring, how are you?
I am well, sir. It is a joy to connect with you again. We're closing out year three.
Yes, wow. I would say I know it's been at least two. So that, how do you like it? You still want to be our superintendent?
I still want to be your superintendent, and I still want to see our children win. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make certain that that's the trajectory that we're headed for. Absolutely, sir. Yes.
Talk about, we lost 2 years, learning, recovery, and all of what that meant. What does that look like? Because it's not a phenomenon that's just been experienced in Atlanta. It's happening all over. You take 2 years off. I imagine I've been in radio 18 years, but if I had been off for 2 years, I wouldn't be at probably peak performance. So what is our challenges and how do we win, and what needs to happen and what continues to happen at APS to help our children go back and grasp what 2 years of kind of online and out of, because I think, Doc, we just look at, well, they were just out of class and they were on the computer, so they got it. But one of the biggest things I'm finding, the socialization or lack thereof of sitting close to other students in your peer group, that's probably more profound than even what they were learning or not. Talk about what that has been like, and then we'll talk about the partnerships we need to begin to create to help with all of that.
Absolutely. And may I just appreciate you framing that so well. But I will also tell you in that framing that the word that comes to mind for me every time this discussion is lifted is trauma.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we have to acknowledge that all of us have experienced some level of trauma as a result of a global pandemic. And then from that, within public education, what we see in Atlanta Public Schools is not unique. Unfortunately, the trauma that we experience in public education is a national issue. The trends around performance and mental health and drops in the performance or proficiency with reading and mathematics, that has been across the U.S. That's not unique to one system.
Right.
At the same time, we all have this moral imperative and this responsibility to be able to not only identify what our data indicates relative to what those areas of proficiency look like, but what those needs look like to address the trauma that I spoke to. In APS, we've been very diligent. We've been very transparent around having conversations relative to data, to performance, to literacy, mathematics. And then we've also been very candid about the whole child, about the issues tied to socialization and mental health needs.
Right.
And then we've been proactive around how we've intervened in that space, whether it's been not only to provide screeners, but to provide access to free telehealth, mental health support for every student in the neighborhood school. But we want to make certain that families and parents know how to fully take advantage of that. And we are all learning a new normal. Although it's been a little over a year since what has been the most intensive part of the pandemic,
right,
all of us are still seeing people for the first time, and people are still wearing masks, and we're still having the narrative around vaccinations and COVID. But we want to pivot out of that while at the same time balance how do we provide the appropriate resources. And so that's our reality. But we are diligent, and we are transparent, and most importantly, with children being first in mind, tied along with our teachers, we're proactive to work to support that. So such a perfect framing for what our reality is.
All right. Let's talk about partnerships. That's one of the things that is critical. And tell us where we are. APS is looking for partners, and tell us what the power of a partnership for a local neighborhood school should look like, or you like it to look like, or who are you looking for to come partner with, whether it's Cleveland Avenue Elementary School, Brown Middle School, or Price Middle School, or one of our high school, Carver High School, and other in the schools in APS system.
No, I so appreciate that. Let me say this. I heard you at the onset bragging about being an APS alum,
yes,
a legacy alum at that. So I celebrate and champion you in that space. In Atlanta Public Schools, 1872 was the year that we were established.
Wow.
So we are now officially in our 150th year. And in being in that year, and you'll hear more from me and from our district around our commitment to this year-long celebration of 150 years, a legacy of leading and changing the world. Part of our commitment to that has been to generate additional partners and to maximize what partnership looks like in a district called Atlanta, or in a city called Atlanta. So what does that look like? And I appreciate that. Corporate sponsorship is one of our goals from our 150th year. Every single one of our schools, we believe, deserves a corporate partner.
Mm-hmm.
And a corporate partner provides resources in ways that the school in its own existence cannot. It's beyond just fiscal. It's time, it's talent, or it's financial investment. And what I also appreciate about your question was like, so give us an example. Harper Archer Elementary School comes to mind, where their corporate partner has provided funding for them to have a communities in schools site coordinator who helps with wraparound services. That's been in place for 2 years. They've also worked with our team to develop different streams of service. After school reimagined, digital days of funding, financial literacy for scholars and parents, and even virtual world experiences. And then corporate partners in other categories, like a Google, who's been a powerful partner in this year. They provide college and career exposure. With financial support, they tend to provide at least $100,000 with in-kind donations and volunteer services, mentorship, scholarship, all of the above. So I'm not saying it has to be all of those. Mm-hmm. I'm giving examples of what really has been some exemplar practices and the space where we need to continue to see more.
Talk about the advantage. I mean, you kind of ran the list, but I mean, Atlanta has a thriving corporate community at various levels. We have Fortune 500 companies, and then we have those companies underneath that do very well on a day-to-day basis. Talk to that public and tell them the advantages. What do they get back? Because oftentimes in a corporate giving model, we want to see a rubrics that tell us, and as a result of our investment, this is what our return, our investment feel and look like. Talk about some of those tangible and intangibles that come with partnering with the school and having a real relationship with a elementary, middle, or high school in APS.
I love that question. And let me tell you, I haven't encountered a corporate partner yet who was not able to speak to the return on investment that yielded the following. First of all, giving back to the community in which either the organization or the corporation or the business existed. Investing very deliberately into the learning process for children, mm-hmm. and also supporting the classroom teacher. But then this is also grounded deeply in something that we can never take for granted, and that is healthy and powerful and lifelong relationships.
Yes.
Relationships through mentoring with students, relationships that occur with teachers. And the other big return on investment I'd like to lift, Mr. Bozeman, has been around the college and career and the employee workforce space, mm-hmm. specifically for business and corporations, whether that's nonprofit or otherwise. Mm-hmm. We're very in tune to the need to be able to, as our core business is tied to teaching and learning, and our mission and vision is preparing kids for college, career, and life, that these partnerships allow for us to help build a pipeline for workforce development for companies, future employees, training, credential. It's quite the win. And as I shared, I haven't encountered a partner yet that couldn't speak to some level of impact that has been game-changing for the employees and the organization for as much as it has been for children.
We got to take a quick break. When we come back, Doc, I want you to talk about, because we often think about the partnership at the Fortune 500, the multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, but also within the neighborhood, the way that Atlanta schools develop over time. They were really neighborhood schools. I'm looking out of my front door and can see the old Jeremiah S. Gilbert School, which was Atlanta Fire Training Academy. That's where I went to elementary school, because I still live in the same neighborhood where I was born and raised. But beyond that, what about the mom and pop business?
Yes.
One of the things that we saw, that the community over here, because I live in a community of older folks, when the Fire Academy was in the old J.S. Gilbert building, these ladies around here would cook dinner. My mama and her little crowd would cook dinner to send up to the school. And we have teachers who need to know that they are appreciated and they're loved. And so, what about those businesses that are surround the school that may want to just say, I want to support a class, a classroom, a teacher, or whomever? When we come back from the break, talk about how they can get involved and what that might look like. All right. Our special guest is Dr. Lisa Herring. She is the superintendent of Atlanta Public Schools. Don't go in a place. We'll be back. There's Too Much Truth with Derek Bozeman on News and Talk 1380 WAOK. All right, welcome back to News and Talk 1380 WALK. If you're a business, a small business, large business, and you want to invest in the future workforce, you may be investing in to be a good corporate partner, good corporate citizen. The superintendent of APS say, hey, we have a place for you to go. You don't have to look far. Just about in every neighborhood in Atlanta, you less than 3-4 miles or closer to a neighborhood school that have young people and programs and activities that need you. And so, Dr. Herring, I was asking about for the smaller businesses that want to invest, or the individual who say, look, I went to Washington High School. I want to get involved. I did pretty good. I want to be able to give back to that organization at school. I want to be able to sponsor a class or a science class to go to on a field trip or whatever. Tell us about what those kinds of small businesses, how they can get involved at the local school level as well.
No, I think that's the perfect question, and there is, again, you introed that so well. There is a space and place for everyone. Yeah. So regardless of size and scale, let me even give an example. Here in Atlanta Public Schools, we have Atlanta College and Career Academy, which is our innovative and primary space for high school students to be able to take courses that are tied to everything from culinary arts to cybersecurity, et cetera, welding, all the things. But, a partner that may not be a corporate partner could help with providing equipment, internships, apprenticeships, mentorships. So that doesn't necessarily mean that it's all, as I shared earlier, tied to the big dollar for it is a big investment, because our students need those opportunities. They need the apprenticeships that they might experience in that level of intimate engagement, equipment that could be donated or training that could take place. And so whatever expertise a partner believes that they have, we are absolutely willing to sit at the table and figure out how to make it work, whatever school, whatever grade level. But I use the Atlanta College and Career Academy as an example because it's multi-purpose. So let's say you have your own plumbing company, or you have your own catering, you're a chef, or you are a dentist, et cetera. So those are examples where if you have the skill and a particular place that you like to connect, make the space for it. Make the space for it.
That's I didn't even think about like internship, because usually we say internship, we're thinking about at the college level. But to the extent we have those who are interested in culinary arts, we have all these restaurants. They say, look, I can take on a couple of students to come in here and learn this craft. I think that would be phenomenal. Or I always loved the heyday of George Washington Carver High School. It was a vocational technical school. So they taught everything from welding to how to repair cars and all of that. And so I know that those are things that our young people, young brothers need to acquire, skills that we need to get again. And many of them, long before their college age, can do these things. And so looking at it, Dr. Herring, if people are listening to you, hear you now, who should they be in contact with? What is the best point? Where can we point them to call to say, hey, I'm here, I'm ready, and this is what I offer? Who should they be in touch with?
So within Atlanta Public Schools, we certainly have a partnership and development division
Okay.
because that's a cohort of X number of people. I love to start out with saying you can start out with something as easy as an email, and I'll share that email. But then I also want to name that you can actually go to the school. You can
Ah,
ask for the principal, and you can have that conversation, and then they know how to follow up with partnership and development,
right.
which covers for the full district. But for partnership and development, the easy email for that is partner, PARTNERDEV. So that's partner dev, PARTNERDEV.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's at the longest email at atlanta.k12.ga.us. So
All
that's
right.
partner, PARTNERDEV, at atlanta.k12.ga.us. Or simply go to the school of interest and ask for the principal or call. It is our joy and our pleasure to make that connection happen, and then they will reach the partnership and development office from there. We don't want to make it hard for anyone.
There you go. In terms of just looking at where we are in terms of, like I said, Atlanta have a lot of business. Are there any industries that you really would like to attract to your partnership development? Just as you look at forecasting where careers or opportunities are, is there any particular field that you want to hear from more than others? I know there's a need all across, but what are our students saying they want to be into, and or is there a deficit of a particular industry that you'd like to see come forth?
So I want to say a couple of things. Let me say them briefly. Number one, what is on our radar is this need for a workforce pipeline for
Mm-hmm.
students who, upon
Yeah,
graduation, who
know
aren't
they got a
necessarily
job.
pursuing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I want them to
Yeah.
graduate already
Well,
employed. They don't have to
right.
pursue the 4 year degree. So those
Exactly.
professions that are out there that do not require a 4 year degree, we need to connect with them strategically. The workforce development and the labor force statistics say that it's those jobs that will have high skill need and high paying, but they
Yeah.
will not have a high number of individuals. We're intentional about trying to train them before they leave us.
Right.
So if that is representative of an entity that's listening, they certainly need to reach out. And then I dare not limit it to one area because our students are
Mm-hmm.
so diverse in that space. But I will also name that in addition to those jobs that do not require the 4 year degree, our
Right.
students also have this unique appetite around technology and
Yeah.
innovation and
Yeah.
entrepreneurship. So many of our students have already started businesses,
Yeah.
they've gotten creative. So even if that's your wheelhouse, our students need you to talk to them about how do you start your own business, how do you manage it even before they graduate. So that's another area.
I love it. I love it. I can tell you back in the day as I keep going to Carver because my uncles, when we had the old GM plant, we used to have a GM Chevrolet plant out near
Yeah,
the
my
federal
daddy worked
prison,
there.
right? My
Yeah.
mama worked there. My uncles worked there. And they
See?
were trained to come straight from Carver because we had the vocational training. GM had partnered with them. And so every student that graduated out of that program went straight over because Carver campus was less than 2 miles from the GM plant. So many of those students ended up at the GM plant with a job. They said, look, if you can train them on these kinds of processes that we use over in this plant, they will have a job. And many of APS students left from that school, went or area tech, which was also a owned by the Atlanta Public Schools at that time, and run by them, also went directly to the GM plant. So you're looking for industries that need a pipeline of young people who don't necessarily need a degree to be able to go from the graduating stage at McCormick, wherever we're going to have the graduation, straight to work the next day.
Mhm. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There you go.
That's accurately said.
Yeah.
And we want to train them before they leave us so that
Yeah.
at graduation, to your point, they leave the stage and they go shake hands with their new employer that they already have a relationship with.
I love that. I love that. And that's what we need to do. So there's no gap between learning and earning. There shouldn't be a gap
I'm
between
gonna
learning and
borrow that, Mr.
there you
Moses.
go. There you
I'm
go.
gonna borrow
I'll let you borrow.
it.
You give me credit for the first time, but we don't need a gap between
Understand.
learning
Yes,
and earning. We want them to
no gap between
understand that
learning
you
and earning.
look that you
Yes,
can
sir.
have a job leaving. I think that's a powerful concept because these young people say, "I just want to get at them. I just want to get at the bag." But we got to tell them that there's a righteous way to do it, and then there's a way that leads to destruction to do it. But if you want to earn
That's right.
money, when my heat went out the other day, I did not call a PhD. I called a heat and air man. All right. And when he got out here, I had to write a check for all of what he did. And it was no little bitty check. Right. And so
Yes.
we need to start preparing our young people to be entrepreneurs. A young man that came out had owned his business for about 10 years, had learned how to do this at Atlanta Technical College, and now he is making buku dollars, and he ain't worried about where he got to sleep at night. And so, Doc, anything else you need us to know?
Let me just say, I appreciate this so much. We're so intentional around this. I will hope that the listening audience is thinking, if you're even wondering a little bit, could you, should you, might you? The answer is yes. There's a space and place for everyone. So I just want to name that. As we continue to celebrate our 150th, we will have events throughout the rest of this semester, all the way into the fall. So we'll be coming back to you to make that
Look,
publicly known, and of course to extend some personal invitations, particularly to legacy alum like yourself.
absolutely. 150 years of public education.
Yes,
Unbelievable.
yes,
Just
yes,
unbelievable. Um,
yes. And
so,
if
hmm
I may, I gave you an email, but let me also just, if a phone number is
yep,
easy,
that's much
if a
easier.
phone number is easy,
It is.
I do want to honor that. 404 802 2845. That's our partnerships
All
division.
right. Give it again
404
real slow. Mm-hmm.
404 802 2845.
All right. All right.
That's the number.
Mhm.
That's the number.
Thank you, Doc. Look, call us anytime. We're always glad to hear from you and keep doing a great job. We appreciate you.